The most important thing to me was always to understand, why are we here? And I kid you not, the night before he came to Dallas, I'm in Dallas, she predicted, or she begged him, let me put it this way, on a television show not to go. And she foresaw something very dangerous and begged him not to go. She actually insinuated that he could be assassinated. Washington, D.C. is built in alignment to the stars. Why? The Catholic Church has the biggest archives of astrology books. The popes used to use astrologers. I predicted when the coronavirus would hit. We need to be very, very afraid of China. And I don't like to use the word afraid. There's a lot that we don't know that's going on because I've looked at the chart of China and I've looked at the chart of their leader.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, how's it going? It's Jean Nolan here, and we're super excited to welcome you to an inspired conversation today with a very, very special guest out of Texas, world famous Vedic astrologer, Joni Patry. Welcome. Thank you, Joni, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It's so wonderful to have you. And Joni, we just talked a little bit. I told you the list of things that you've accomplished in the field of astrology is too big to read. I mean, you've written so many books, journals. You are part of pretty much every association. You've received every award, traveled around the world, and done amazing, amazing things, been on TV shows. And as I said, the list is too long to read all the way. What I do want to start with is some of your accurate predictions before they happened. Number one is what I see here. You predicted President Trump's win in 2016 accurately. You predicted the Bitcoin boom, the coronavirus itself, and that President Trump would get the coronavirus. So for our viewers, these are just there's a very small portion of the things that you accurately predicted. But I would love to ask you, how did you get into astrology, and how come that journey has taken you all around the world, and what do you think? What is your purpose in this field?
Wow, that's a deep question. Goes way back for me because I started in astrology when I was a teenager. My mother always had astrology books around the house, and we happened to be the same sun sign. So I picked them up and started reading them. And the most important thing to me was always to understand, why are we here? That's just like blew my mind. Here we're on this planet in these bodies, and no one really knows why we're here. So I really made it my focus to find out as much as I could why we're here. Astrology was the deepest, most powerful tool I found that taught me that. More than religion or anything else, because astrology is what I call the divine science. So as a little girl, I started reading the books, but over time, I started seeing people out there that actually could predict the future. And that was so wild for me to understand, because I was around when President Kennedy was assassinated. And I kid you not, the night before he came to Dallas, I'm in Dallas, she predicted, or she begged him, let me put it this way, on a television show not to go. And she foresaw something very dangerous and begged him not to go. She actually insinuated that he could be assassinated. And from that day on, I thought, I have got to know how this woman did this. And so I made it my purpose, and I started studying the calculation books. And let me remind you, this is way before computers. It was very hard to calculate the horoscope, but I learned how, and I saw how this definitely lines up with the mathematical calculations of the universe. I mean, it doesn't get more profound than that to understand. And everyone says, math is the deepest aspect of order. And if you understand the mathematical calculations in the universe, you will understand everything about the world. As a matter of fact, Nikola Tesla said, if you understand the meanings between the numbers 3, 6, and 9, well, that you would understand the universe. And Vedic astrology, which I got in 20 years after studying Western astrology, I got into Vedic astrology because I started studying Eastern philosophy. This made sense to me, the whole theory of reincarnation. Why are certain people plagued with lives that they had. The only thing that made sense was what Eastern philosophy taught. So then I come to find out in Eastern philosophy that there's a different astrology than Western. And so these seers, these saints, I wanted to know the astrology that they practice. So I made it my focus, and it wasn't easy learning Vedic astrology way back before computers. The books, I got to tell you, written from the ones translated from India were not very good. But I still, forged on. I got the whole principles, and I made it so that somebody in the West could understand it more, because it just seems so overwhelming when you talk about the stars, the nakshatras, and aspects, and all these rules that Vedic astrology encompasses. I found a way to simplify it, but most of all, be able to make the predictions that we need to help guide us. It's not about just, being able to predict these things, but to give us the guidance. Because remember, all the ancient astrologers, they built cities in accordance to the stars, such as the Egyptians, the Mayans, even as I told you before, Washington, D.C. is built in alignment to the stars. Why? Because they are so purposeful and meaningful, and they have such a profound message. They are our guiding lights in the sky. Why wouldn't we use that to help us in these most difficult times that we're going through, particularly right now? So does that give you a little bit of background of how I started and how it progressed? But my thing now is the Eastern Vedic astrology from India, because it is the true placements of where the planets are astronomically. And I find that it's so much more accurate, especially with making predictions. Mm-hmm. And a lot of Western astrologers are very psychologically based, which is great. I was a psychologist, I got a degree in psychology, but I feel like this incorporates the spirituality of the stars with the psychology.
Well, that's what I enjoy so much about listening and watching your videos, is that there's such a profound body of wisdom and knowledge that you speak from, and then you compress it down to make it digestible and understandable for people that are not astrologers and don't know these constellations. But you said something very interesting, and that is that even Washington, D.C., which is a fairly young city, compared to all the other cities and empires you mentioned, was built around the placement of the stars. Now, how come that this wisdom, this knowledge wasn't and still isn't really an integral part of our culture? Why is astrology still not? If something like the capital of the United States is built on those principles, that means that there is a knowledge and wisdom that was hidden from the people but used for this. And why do you think, what is the empowerment for you that comes with this knowledge and wisdom that needs to be hidden from the common people?
Right. Well, control is it. The higher, well, for example, did you know that the Catholic Church has the biggest archives of astrology books? The popes used to use astrologers. But as we come to this current day, certain popes said astrology is not a good thing. It's evil, it's part of the devil. How can people say that when the three wise men called magi were astrologers following the star, because they knew that this was the advent of the birth of a new beginning through the birth of a human, and they followed the stars. So your question is, why is this hidden from us? Well, I think to control us, because this gives us back our own control to be able to guide our lives. And maybe this may take us away from some of the massive fortunes that some of the churches, as we well know, have made through controlling the world, such as, I think it's the biggest, the richest organization in the world is the Catholic Church. And I was raised Catholic, so I can talk about it. I know what it feels like to be told things as a little girl that didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I grew up in a Catholic country as well, so I can very much relate to that.
Yeah.
So we are in a time, and you know, you can't really say this often enough. You're talking about this time period, or referring to it as the grand finale. The grand finale, that's what you call it.
Yeah.
And people say, you know, I think it's almost like we have been in this intensity now for many years, but especially the past 2 years now almost. And it's almost like people are not noticing and realizing how many big events are happening, and how much is really going on. Where do you see, especially as we're entering this month, or at the beginning of the month of December here, where do you see the next days and weeks, and what do you think we will see happening in terms of real life human events, but also energetically?
Right. Boy, and I got to say, this interview is so timely. I can't believe it, because really today, that where we're speaking, is Mars is just entering into the sign of Scorpio. Now, Mars goes through the whole zodiac every 2 years, so it's not that profound at going into Scorpio, but it's going into Scorpio with the nodes of the moon. The nodes of the moon, we call them in Vedic astrology, the north node is Rahu and the south node is Ketu. They're always exactly opposite. And they're really just points in space that connect the earth, the sun, and the moon. So these are the most important variables on planet Earth: the sun, the moon, and their connection to Earth, because these points in space are what cause eclipses.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yesterday or 2 days ago, we just had a solar eclipse. And now today, Mars has come into the sign. So really, it's not till every 18 and a half years that you will have an eclipse in Scorpio, with Mars coming over it right after the eclipse. This is the trigger. I always say to all my students, Mars is the trigger. Mars is the planet of energy. It's the red, fiery planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it deals with anger, aggression, war. And not only that, we have these points in space where the eclipse just happened, conjunct the fixed star Antares. And Antares is the star of war. This takes into account the meanings of the stars, the eclipses, and the planets. And we have a lineup here that says to me, there's going to be some explosive events between now and the third week of January, because this is the whole time that Mars is in Scorpio. And I have tracked all of these past big events as to what caused their happenings astronomically, astrologically. And most every time that transiting Mars crosses over an eclipse degree, we have some kind of major event. And here's another thing that I haven't mentioned on any of my videos or anything, that Scorpio is this place that deals with poisons. Because if you consider, this tail of the scorpion is poisonous and the sting hurts. And this is where the eclipse and Mars is going to trigger around this point of the heart of the scorpion, which is 16 degrees of Scorpio sidereally. And the eclipse was at 18 degrees of Scorpio. And when Mars crosses over, you'll see December 15th will be a time when something will come about that is not so pleasant, because Mars will hit Ketu, and Ketu is really considered the placement of losses. So there's something dealing with a big loss. Then by the 31st of December, this is New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, around the 30th, 31st, and the 1st, we have Mars crossing over the previous eclipse degree, and that's a trigger. As a matter of fact, that happened on September 11th. Now, I predicted when the coronavirus would hit because of these exact parameters of Rahu and Ketu. I talk about this all the time. But here's the thing, every 18 and a half years, whenever Rahu and Ketu would go into the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius, there was always a catastrophic event.
Mhm.
When we go back 18 and a half years ago, it was September 11th. 18 and a half years prior to that was the AIDS virus. 18 and a half years prior to that was the assassination of Kennedy. And 18 and a half years prior to that was the bombing of Hiroshima. Should I go on? It's
Oh my
just
God.
every time those portions, see, there's the stars and the portions in the sky that are so powerful. And when these nodes of the moon cross into them, it causes these type of events. Now, Scorpio doesn't have as many events as Sagittarius and Gemini, but I haven't ever seen where the eclipse really hit. You know, the eclipses can land in Scorpio, but whenever it's within a 3-degree range of a star, that star takes precedent of what it means. And Antares is war. So I've said throughout this year that I thought there could be an outbreak of some type of war in December around the last day of the year. So,
Just
and
to
it's still not
clarify,
over in January, but go ahead.
you were, no, I just wanted to clarify on this because we could consider what is happening on the planet as, I mean, certainly
Exactly.
spiritual warfare that's going on. That's definitely already unfolding. But what
Mhm.
you're saying is tangible physical warfare that could, or violence, some sort of a bigger violent event that could happen in the next days and weeks as we look forward. You're really speaking about something that would be noticeable as a as an
Mhm.
event to people as they could follow and see it unfolding.
Yeah, and I tell everyone, you know, looking at the charts, here's what I do to predict the future is I get charts not only of what's happening in the heavens, but also charts of countries when the country began, charts of world leaders, and I compare all of these things, and that's where I come up with where I think things are coming from, what's going to be happening. And I don't know if I can say this or not. You know, you got to be careful with what you say all the time. But
You can say anything, Joni. Say anything.
okay, good.
Open, be blunt.
Okay, but you know, we need to be very, very afraid of China. And I don't like to use the word afraid, but there's a lot that we don't know that's going on because I've looked at the chart of China and I've looked at the chart of their leader and I've looked at the chart of the United States, and they all line up with Mars being the connector with China, United States, and our leaders. So there's something that we don't know about. And another deep dark energy is Scorpio. Scorpio is the most psychological, emotional sign of all. And when you look at what's going on with this eclipse in the sign of Scorpio, you got to know that psychologically people are feeling it. I know I'm feeling it. There's something up that we don't know about. Scorpio is the sign of secrets too. So there's so many secrets that are about to be unveiled because I always look symbolically at an eclipse as the darkening. And in the dark is where the truth comes out. Because we got to really look at our shadow side and the shadow side of this planet, the purpose, the goals, everything that this planet's about on the deeper shadow side. So if you want to say the dark negative side, you know, there's a yin and a yang, there's the light and the dark, but the darkness is going to bring out to the light what we didn't know about. And most people won't want to believe it because it is so hard to believe. Because from my vantage point, how can people want to hurt each other? But they do that, and that's a shocker to me.
And in the most atrocious ways too. I think that's what you're referring to is when I think when you allow the light to enter, you know, your body, your being, what also comes with that is truth and authenticity. That's been in my experience. One cannot go without the other.
Right.
So I think as more and more people quote unquote awaken in many different ways in their own paths, that's what begins to unfold in front of their eyes. And what you're saying is so many people just don't want to believe it, cannot, or basically the mind goes into a shut off, into a compartmentalized state because it cannot cope with it. However, and this is my personal belief, I don't think we can, we can come or go through this and actually come out in this golden age, if we want to call it that, without going through this, without acknowledging it and healing it. Like you said in our conversation,
Yes.
we need to heal, but in order for us to heal, we need to be aware what needs healing. We need to understand
Right.
what's unfolded so we can actually heal it. So how do you see that journey unfolding, our healing journey collectively?
Here's what I always say. In order to heal, you have to feel. So we cannot pretend this isn't happening or brush it under the carpet. Now it's come to the forefront. It's boiled up to the surface. What are we going to do with this? And I believe, first of all, we got to recognize where the culprit's coming from. And like I said, these world leaders, such as, China and all of that, it's like they're really trying to take control of the world. And I said that when the coronavirus hit, I said there was going to be a terrorist attack. And I think this was a terrorist attack because it's biological warfare, and how they're still at it. It looks like they're still at it, and they know it works now. So they're using it because the tail of the scorpion is the poison. That's the virus. And it's coming, now we have another variant that's freaking people out again. But taking it back to what we can do ourselves, because we're not going to be able to do anything about what China's doing or what our presidents are doing.
At least not directly, yeah.
Yeah, that's out of our control. But what is in our control is our own feelings, healing that. So I feel like every time things become very difficult, it's an opportunity for growth and learning. We do not learn unless things get difficult. My teacher used to always say, nobody seeks God after winning the lottery. But, so we have to really get in touch with what opportunity this gives us, because this is a huge opportunity to change the world, to come to a place where we realize what's truly happening out there. And if we make a change in our own lives, I know it sounds minimal and like it's not enough, but it truly is, because I'm a firm believer. I've seen it work in my life. When you change what's within you, your beliefs, your knowingness, and change to be that person that is going to be good and kind and loving and recognize and be in gratitude of the beauty of this world. I'm still in awe every day at my age at how magnificently beautiful this world is. It is breathtaking. The mountains, the different countries, the seas, the oceans, the colors, the beauty, the birds, the fish. Come on, this place is magnificent. So when you come from a place of this gratitude, this love of everything and everyone, then you're going to have that returned, and that vibration is going to come back to you. When whatever you put out there, practice it, it's going to come back. So even though we're one person, imagine if thousands of people did this. This virus would have to go away because there's no more fear. And I believe fear breeds this kind of activity. So they're putting fear out there. They're putting all these vibrations out there that make us sick. Yes. So that's what I feel. Work on ourselves. That's what we do have the control over.
Well, and as you said, this is one body of work, your one body of work, but collectively, as we raise our individual vibration, as we shine our individual lights, we brighten collectively this whole place. And one thing that I think is sometimes difficult for people to grasp, but as everything is vibrational,
it is.
If the vibration rises, whatever is not a match to it cannot, as you said, cannot exist anymore. So whatever is sickness, whatever is death, fear, terror, those things cannot exist in a high vibration because they're not a match. Exactly. So that's where the initial work always comes from, right? And so at least this is my feeling. This does not mean we will not see some things unfold that are already on the trajectory. They will unfold. but it makes a huge difference how we walk through this.
Absolutely. It's a big test. And we have the opportunity to do something about it individually. And as we do that, it is collective. And I feel like astrology definitely directs me as to what and how I can heal myself. Because astrology, your own birth chart will tell you what you're here to work on, what karmas that you incarnated here with, because your chart is a vast accumulation of all your lifetimes together. It's who you become, but it's our free will and our direction and our willpower to look at ourselves and change ourselves based on what we need to change, whether it's relationships, whether it's our health, whether it's our family matters, whether it's our attitude. The chart tells us all of these things. And if we can become aware and work on them, we change our lives. That's the beauty of this tool of astrology for individual makeup as well as the collective.
Now, I know you've done this for sure. I haven't heard you talk about it because you usually talk about what is right in front of us naturally, and that's really important for people. But what do you see 5, 10, 15, even 20 years down the road for our planet? What do you see from the standpoint of Vedic astrology, and energetically? Where are we going?
Yeah, that's a good, and here's one more thing that I need to make relevant. We do have free will. So the collective consciousness is going to be guided by the stars and the planets. So that's why pretty much everything happens the way the stars predict. But if we can see what is coming down the road, then we can better work on it. And, eventually, here's my philosophy. Eventually, we're all here to grow. Planet Earth is a hard place because through these challenges give us the opportunity for spiritual growth. And I believe we're all here for a spiritual, to find who we really are. And I believe who we really are is when you connect within yourself, you will find that you are part of that divine essence that is part of everything that has life. But that in essence is the divine. When you realize you are that, then I think you evolve to another dimension, probably off the third, fourth physical dimension. And then you know what you do? All you want to do is help people. So you come back. And whether you're in a body or not, you help the world evolve and grow. You help other people find this truth. But going back to your question of what's coming up through the next few years, I look at, well, in the United States, of course, this is global. We're going to see that there's going to be a huge change, and I won't talk about exactly. As a matter of fact, I'm going to talk about exactly in my predictions that I'm going to be giving on December 18th. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in the next elections in the United States will be completely different. Why? Because we learned a lot from these past elections. We learned a whole lot, and it's still evolving. The truth is still surfacing about what the truth is and what's been going on and all of the corruption.
Okay, I got to intersect here. Do you see a change relating to the past election?
Yes.
Do you still a change before the next election?
I think it's kind of impossible, but here's what I do think. I think the people are starting to catch on because, you can't deny what's being revealed. And that's what always happens with these eclipses. The truth comes out. Yes, you can say it's not true, but the facts are out there. The facts are obvious. You can see what's truly happening, even though it may go unreported or it may not be talked about, but we all know. Mm-hmm. And we're all seeing the light, whether we want to believe what we're seeing or not, because it's not pretty. So what's going to happen is I think there's going to be a lot of revolts and definitely revolutions and protests that are going to be so extreme that I don't know, it could definitely put a huge change in what's happening before the elections. But I do know this, by the next elections, everything will be different. Nothing will be the same. It's going to be a complete flip-flop. I won't say what I'm going to say in my predictions, because, you know, some people don't like it, but it's what the astrology says. I don't care if I like it or not. It's what the astrology is telling me. Trying to take opinions out and looking at people's charts as to what will happen, such as Biden, Kamala Harris, and even Donald Trump. All those charts are relevant to what is going to be happening in the next 4 years. And in the next 6 years, you know, it seems like we should be getting back to a place of peace, but I don't see it. And I also looked way ahead to when the next time that Rahu goes into Gemini and Ketu goes into Sagittarius. I believe it's around 2039. And let me just say, it looks worse than the other ones that I looked at before. So are people coming together with a sense of peace and wisdom and knowledge? I think no. I think there's still the forces of the dark that are trying to control everything. And when they're not gaining in power, they dig their heels in deeper and they find other ways. And yes, you know, this whole thing with biological warfare worked so well. I think they've got other plans with this, but I hope I'm wrong with that. Let me just say that. But this gives us more emphasis on trying to work on ourselves now, because I do believe we can change the course of history, but we may not know sometimes what's good for us. We think we know.
Well, isn't this, and this is what we talk about a lot and teach our tribe a lot, is that if whatever your intention is, what you know, when you align yourself, when you harmonize yourself, when you heal yourself, you come from a very co-creative, pure place now, and that intention will project into your physical reality, but it will not necessarily look the way you picture it in your mind.
Right.
There's a much greater consciousness that orchestrates the details that we don't orchestrate in all of it. What I did want to ask you, your take, what we see is a split in society, and it's becoming bigger. One section of society that is going down the absolutely 100% technological path. It's technocracy. Everything revolves around the new technologies, and it's going into this artificial realm that really dilutes what we perceive as reality with our senses. And that basically, that path is pre-written because there's clear where this should go in terms of the, let's say, the visionaries of this path. But we also see another path of people returning back to nature, of people returning back to a true essence of human beingness. So where do you see this path going? And are we going to have two coexisting societies in the future? How is this going to play out? What is your take on that?
Boy, that's, you know, you're really on it. You're really on to something. I'll tell you why. Because I see this too, astrologically, because everyone's heard out there, we're moving into the age of Aquarius, right? Mm-hmm. So sidereally, it's a long time from now. It's actually going to be, I think, believe it or not, over 400 years from now. But we are getting closer to that, because it's about 1,600 years in each age. And as we get closer to the age of Aquarius, Aquarius is all technologically based. And, you know, when I think back to being a little girl and watching the Jetsons, I mean, I never, ever thought that we could have a phone where we see each other. But, you know, I think a lot of things that we never, ever thought will be happening, especially in the age of Aquarius. But Aquarius is a sign that can be more detached than we are still in the age of Pisces, which deals with religious belief and, you know, fundamental religious belief, by the way. And I always say the saying for Pisces is I believe, but the saying for Aquarius is I know. And when you come to that knowingness, it's like it jumps out of any kind of ability to believe one way or another, because the facts are there, and there's no such thing as all the religions that split people or all of the governments that split people. So it can be that this can bring us to a togetherness. And what I think could actually happen in the age of Aquarius, besides thinking, oh, we're all cold, detached, or, technologically based, no, we come to what I found to be the true nature of God. And that is when you blend science and spirituality together, you come up with nature. And that is the true essence of God. So we will come together with nature and the understanding that God is present in all of these beautiful natural things on this planet. And with that, we will blend the technology with that. So I think this will be a merging of spirituality and science in the age of Aquarius, which doesn't separate those two things, but blends them. I don't know exactly how that's going to look, but I know that's what the age of Aquarius will bring. And there's much more of an elevation of consciousness, because 2,000 years ago, when the age of Pisces started, it was the darkest time on planet Earth. It was actually in the age of Aries, and there was nothing but war and fighting. And then the advent of the age of Pisces came, and guess what that brought? The birth of Christ. So the symbol for Pisces is the fish. And that's very relevant in Christianity. So you'll see that throughout this age of Pisces, that it's still about this, do I believe this or do I believe that? What's the truth? We can't see it yet. When we get to Aquarius, we will know the truth. And in the course of the next, pretty much, I'm going to say 10,000 years, planet Earth will evolve to a much more spiritual, aware, and conscious planet. It's going to take that long, because in the process of a precession of the equinoxes, it takes 26,000 years for the cycle to go through all 12 signs. So if we came from the darkest age 2,000 years ago, that means in the half cycle, it's like, if you consider it like the cycle of the waxing and waning moon, when it comes to the full moon, opposite Pisces, that's going to be the highest evolution. So if you have that every 13,000 years, from the darkest will come to the brightest. But then it reverts back, like it wanes back. And this is the whole cycle of humanity here, as the cycles of precession exist. And precession is based on the stars. I think the stars are so relevant in astrology. And I love that Vedic astrology takes into account the stars. We call them the Nakshatras. There's 27 of them, and their meanings are derived from the stars. And the one thing, if I could say this to the astrology lovers out there, that I love about Vedic astrology, it's true to the stars. Because in Western astrology, they think that the Regulus, which is the heart of the lion, they think it's in Virgo now. It cannot be. So Vedic astrology, where the stars move, that's where the signs remain intact. So of course, Regulus, which is the heart of the lion, remains in Leo, as well as Antares, which is the heart of the scorpion, remains in Scorpio and is not in Sagittarius. So that really got me. And plus the meanings and what I could do with the Nakshatras blew my mind. And this is like the discovery of understanding the universe. And to be honest with you, this gives me a sense of healing and hope and protection, that this is all divine in one, that nothing is ever going to go wrong, because we're always going to be returned to that divine essence, that connection to that source. It's always there with us. And when we realize that, it is so healing. And all you want to do is come from a place of appreciation and love. What a life if everyone connected with that. And that's the power, I think, of understanding the stars.
Oh, these words go very deep, or very, very profound. And I feel the wisdom of the ages. Joni, you told me that there are two really great events coming up on your calendar that you would love to invite our tribe to as well. Because with everything you do and all the stuff that you have on your plate, you're the founder of the Galactic Center and also the founder of the University of Vedic Astrology. And what's coming up on your calendar that you would love for people to share and show up for?
Good. I'm glad you asked, because December 18th, I'm going to be giving my predictions for the year of 2022 in detail. And of course, everyone wants to know about cryptocurrency and the stock market, all these things that, you know, are entertaining, very much entertaining. And it gives us a lot of, you know, hope back, where we can find ways to support ourselves. And not only that, I'm going to say exactly what's going to be going on in the political realm in the world, because so much is about to come down. This class will be uncensored. It's going to be something that is not on YouTube, so we can talk the truth. And there will be questions and answers afterwards. I expect this class to be three hours, 2 hours of me speaking and an hour of question and answers. I want everyone to be able to talk to me and get the answers that I'm going to be talking about. So if you want to register for that class, you go to my website, galacticcenter.org. And right on the front page, it'll tell you, click here if you want to buy the world predictions.
And it's open to everyone, right?
Yes, it's open to everyone. So I expect that to be a very exciting class. But more importantly, the thing that I have to say I'm the most proudest of all my accomplishments is my University of Vedic Astrology. I created an entire school for certification. If you take it slow, it takes about a year to complete, but we prepare you to be able to do what I do, to be able to predict, to give readings. And we have a vast community of people around the world. And what's coming up is January 10th, we have a brand new start date where you can participate in the live webinars for semester 1. So if you're a beginner, even if you're a Western astrologer, you'll want to start at the beginning of this, because this is such a deep study. But check it out, because January 10th starts my live videos. There's 40 videos that are recorded, you get to watch. And one thing I love about my university is you get a live tutor that will grade your tests. So there's 40 videos, 40 tests, but in the end, the 6th semester, you work with me personally, one-on-one, and then we train you and we even set you up in business. This is a truly hands-on class, community. You're never left alone. And we have videos that are recorded plus live videos weekly. And I promise you, if you want to become an astrologer, we are here to guide and help everyone. So that is on my university website. And my university website is universityofvedicastrology.com. Check it out.
Fantastic. And so I know if you go through the galacticcenter.org, you find all of your links there. I saw that a plethora of books that Joni has written that you can check out. There's a jewelry line that you can check out. So Joni has her hand in everything, and I just don't know how she does it. I see this list of things that she does on a daily basis, then she comes out with the YouTube videos. Thank you so much for squeezing us in, for taking the time today, Joni. This was delightful, a lot of depth, guidance, and wisdom from Joni Patry, Inspired Tribe. Thank you so much for being with us today. And we hope to have you back soon and talk some more. And Inspired Tribe, please take to heart what you heard today. There's not a set path. There is a tendency, there are energies, but you yourself, your will, your intention has a lot of power in your own life and subsequently also collectively. Thank you again, Joni Patry. Thank you so much, Inspired Tribe, for watching.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And we'll see you all again very soon.
Okay.